Hi guys, I'm Katie Room from Periapsispress.com, where I review indie sci-fi and fantasy books. Welcome back to our book club. With me today is Patrick from Cave to the Cross. We are picking up another short stories anthology. This time we're doing Tales Before Tolkien.
The prequels.
The prequels.
Yeah.
This one is obviously traditionally published and actually quite a bit longer. You can see. It's got over, I think it's got 22 stories.
I do believe so. Yeah, 22.
Chose this one for a couple of reasons. One, of course, is the word Tolkien across the cover.
I see it.
How to sell me anything.
Yeah.
Another is that I want to read his inspirations and talk about them with other people. The third secret reason, don't tell anybody, is that I want to buy more books. And I'd like to know what authors to keep an eye out for. So this will be a good introduction for that. Before we move on, what about indies, Katie? Well, I love indies. Part of reading this and talking about and thinking about the roots of modern fantasy for me is kind of beefing out my repertoire, I guess, the stuff that I have under my belt to reach for when people ask for recommendations. So if they say they like Lord Dunsany, I'll be like, oh, okay, I've read some of him. Here's an indie that's like him, right? I'll have a better feel for tone, style, the vibe of the fantasy. So that's kind of what I'm going for with my own reading for this. And obviously, I will give you guys recommendations anytime that a story in here makes me think of an indie I've read. I promise this is all for indies.
That's right. That's right. These were the original indies.
Right.
Yeah. I wanted to join you. First of all, I always appreciate your takes on indies and also fiction in general. Joining you via chat on the live has always been eye-opening, sometimes pocketbook opening too. And I always appreciate that. It's like Katie Room and Martin Cawthorne. I always have to kind of try and turn the volume down a little bit when you get to book recommendations, although it's usually really hard. So even if we disagree on a book, like I think there was one this year that you read, I read. We had different takes, but the first time that I had you on my show, I first of all dominated because I'm a man and I can't hold myself back, especially when we're talking about sci-fi books or the lesser sci-fi, as I call it, fantasy.
It's a good time.
Yeah, believe it or not, I've always been the nerd, and this was before Big Bang Theory, where everything nerd was cool, and you could wear glasses. You needed the prescription in the actual glasses. So my friend group has been the geeky Christians, but I tended to be very, very sci-fi, smattering of fantasy here and there, but not nearly enough as you tend to enjoy them. So I've always went to my best friend. He's always been my go-to fantasy recommendation. But when he tells me, no, book 8 of this 1,000-page book series, and there's 18 of them so far, I'm just not there for that commitment. I'm halfway done with life. The good Lord can take me at any moment, and that's a hard commit. So the sites like Periapsis Press has always been nice because I tended to get to know you, and usually I can pick something there that I know at least won't waste my time. I might not fully enjoy it. I might not fully like it, or it might not be my thing, but it's usually a well recommendation. So I always appreciate that about you as well, because it gets that other side of, well, I can reach for my space battle, but the wizard with a hat, I do want to. So I'm on book 2, or sorry, we're on book 3, 2 Towers this year for our family read out loud. So nice. we've done the Hobbit and Fellowship. So this is that nice backstory. So I always like the what came before, and I know Tolkien is very, very influential in World War II, in the true myth ideas that him and the other Inklings had, and the idea of building the the new myth for Britain and his people. I know he's safe. I've enjoyed him, and it's interesting because sorry, I'm taking probably way too much time,
So
but
fine.
but reading with my oldest daughter, I'm thinking like, okay, we're talking about this tree. We're the chapter. We're talking about the tree, and we're talking about walking. We talk about walking a lot, and then Gandalf does something, spoiler, and he may be gone for the 10-year-old perspective, and I just have to sit there and grin and bear it, and wait for her to discover it again. So I'm living precariously through her, but also I wasn't there to enjoy like the high fantasy, the low fantasy. I tended to like the UFOs, the alien first contacts, even some of the like Niven stuff has been too much world building for me. You got to get me with the characters and plot. So this is kind of usually a stretch, but the Tales Before Tolkien is nice because there's kind of that advent of the coming nature that I think we'll talk about in the introduction as well. So that's my pitch for me.
All right. Thank you. Okay. Tales Before Tolkien. This is subtitled The Roots of Modern Fantasy, and it is edited and with commentary by Douglas A. Anderson, editor of the Annotated Hobbit, is what it says on the cover here. He's done a lot of stuff, so I don't know if they just pulled that one out of a hat or if that was the latest one he'd done.
Yeah.
The introduction starts, for many readers, fantasy begins with J.R.R. Tolkien. I don't know if that's true of me. I feel like I was quite a bit older when my mom read it to me. So I'm not sure that it was the first fantasy that I read. But other than actual legitimate fairy tales, right? It probably, whatever fantasy I picked up was influenced by him. So
I remember doing the Sword of Shannara and going, there's a lot of horse riding here. And then when I picked up the Hobbit with the bag cover, what the one I'm talking about, the bag cover. Yep. My school librarian at my Catholic school that I went to, they're like, well, this is a hard read for you. And I wasn't chosen out of the elite people to be in the advanced reading class, but so I read the Hobbit out of spite, and so I tend to remember that more than I do anything. And all those people are burnouts that were chosen for the high level class, and here's just me. I'm replacing me and my wife when we die with 2 kids. So I've at least got that going for us. So eat it, librarian.
Fantasy literature, however, did not begin with Tolkien, though he developed it in a manner such that there exists almost a dividing line between fantasy written before Tolkien and fantasy written afterward. I like how he manages to say this without using the phrase "the father of modern fantasy."
Yeah, the grandfather, the father. Yeah.
Then he starts going into the roots of fantasy. They extend back to Homer, and then he talks about Beowulf, Arthur, Alexander the Great, and of course Icelandic sagas. Calls those out in particular, since Lord of the Rings is more in that sort of tradition. Tolkien says too that it's more properly called a heroic romance than a novel. And then it talks about what came sort of after those, which would be folklore and fairy tales. And then they call them Kunstmärchen, which are basically like original fairy tales, where like Hans Christian Andersen, right? Where somebody sat down and instead of writing down oral traditions like Grimm, like they wrote their own type of thing. And then from there, it developed into children's lit fantasy, and then adult fantasy.
Yeah. That artful fairy tale. I was slogging over different translations of Hans Christian Andersen and I'm sorry, the Brothers Grimm, and I had 2 in my hand, and I was using all sorts of different search engines to help me out, and I went with the one that wasn't in my hand, and I tended to enjoy the irony in that as well. But I was I took some Greek last year, which I probably have underhandedly bragged a number of times in as well. And so that authorial intent of the author to try and be to translate correctly is a hard thing, because I also read a number of Greek works, so I read Richmond Lattimore's translation of Iliad and Odyssey, and those tend to be more dynamic translation. Mouthfeel was uttered a number of times of oh, this feels good, which is completely opposite of what I want in a Bible study, like in a Bible translation. And then I was reading some of the comedies of I think Euripides, and it read, fart jokes and vaudeville comedy. I was like, is this what it was? Well, you without the background knowledge of it, you lose the kind of what it means. So it was a good introduction for me to read kind of those, with the understanding that I can always pick those back up again with a more direct translation, and then maybe develop the background more as I get more well read. And so here, the what came before and what came after is a really neat lens to look at kind of the master through.
Yeah. Jonathan.
Hey, totally
Welcome.
forgot we were doing this tonight, but I was playing Shadow of Mordor. Doing like my 4th playthrough.
If you think that's a substitution for having read the introduction,
I mean, it's basically the same thing. I'm into hot Shelob, okay?
I
That's
haven't
Shadow.
got I have Shadow of Mordor, and I played through, I feel like, a couple dozen hours of it, and I didn't even get that far.
Oh man, I actually really like the game style, so it's fun for me to do, and it
Nice.
helps me think as I'm writing, because it's like the same thing. It's grim, dark, hack and slash,
Sure.
and
All
I
right.
love the voice acting of the elf. Does a great job. Love that guy. I'd love to have that guy yelling at me all the time.
So just finished the first page, basically.
Okay.
And then the introduction moves into what this anthology is going to be. Sort of, we're not starting at Homer. We're beginning with that Kunstmärchen. So the sort of original fairy tales.
Yeah,
And then
the Elves by Ludwig Tieck.
Yeah, that's going to be the first one.
Yeah, which is nice too, because even within this, there are like this one was a big influence on the next one, which was George MacDonald. So he kind of The Princess and the Goblin. The one that I have that I really like the cover photo from it is Lilith. So it's an allegory of what American people do is they make Lilith the vampire of ye old
Yeah.
of ye old Adam and Eve, but he does a different take on it of being more Middle Ages, medieval era.
He's got some fun guidelines for what he's chosen. Like the first one is written before The Hobbit, and then the second one is they have to be older than Tolkien by 5 years.
Yeah. The stories have to be written before 1937. Authors have to be born at least 5 years before Tolkien, which is 1892. And this is a mix of different influences, Tolkien themes, and contrasting approaches.
Yeah, Tolkienian. They either directly inspired Tolkien, or they feel like Tolkien, or neither of those. And they're just there to show the diversity of fantasy. If red flags are waving in your head, that's the other kind of diversity.
I didn't even think that. There's
Again,
Tolkien, and then there's Starfleet
in
Academy, okay?
So the part that Patrick had started talking about, where he starts talking about the elves and then how that influenced MacDonald, and then he goes through talking about each of the entries in a sort of generalized categorical way. This is the kind of thing that's missing from a lot of indie anthology introductions, because the editors don't actually read them all the time, or they don't think too hard about the order that they're going in this way.
Right.
Or they do, but they don't tell the reader that they thought about it.
Right.
So I really, there's a lot of names, so I'm not going to read it to you, but that's an important part to me.
Yeah, there's definitely a few in here that I at least know. So Andrew Lang, who's the Blue Fairy Tale and all the color fairy tales one, hugely influential in British children fantasy, and then of course L. Frank Baum, who you can read either Wizard of Oz as a fun fantasy tale, or it's about the declining gold standard and how we should drop fiat currency, which I personally like, but maybe that's my postmodernism, reading too much.
What would have Tolkien have said about crypto?
As the anarchist, I know he would approve. He would buy the dip.
There's a lot of names I'm familiar with here,
Yeah.
but not necessarily because I've read them. Like I just recognize the names. So I'm very interested to
Well, that's how
read
high
stuff.
literature works. You don't read it, you just
Right.
know about it.
Yeah, I was an English literature major. Apparently that meant that I didn't read a whole lot of English literature.
That's what I encountered when I was in the English literature classes. I was like,
Yep.
why am I not reading anything good?
He makes notes at the beginning of each of the things, kind of explaining why he put them there. They're not supposed to be long analyses. Yeah, I was an English lit major. I don't know.
And a lie.
My 54 book reviews this year, and usually half of them are like, "Did you even read this book? Because you mispronounced a lot of wrong names." Listen, I'm American. I pronounce them correctly because I can.
Exactly. Yeah.
The firearms in my house tell me that I'm correct.
Yes. Yes. The F-35s that fly overhead and the B-2s you didn't see till they came back. Yes. This tells me my pronunciation is in fact accurate.
They are nuclear vessels. Thank you very much.
Laser guided, accurate pronunciation.
He ends the introduction with another little thing about Tolkien, sort of before and after, again, without mentioning the modern fantasy title. Tolkien's greatness lies in how he brought together the various existing strands of fantasy: heroic romance, folklore, fairy tales, and adult fantasy, and extended the scope of fantasy across the board in historical as well as novelistic manner. I think this is kind of the important aspect of it that people who dismiss Tolkien because he wasn't the first kind of are missing. Tolkien was kind of doing something different in the way that he did all of it.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no originality, right? I mean, I think we've had this conversation before. It doesn't lie in what you create that's completely new. It's how you take the context of your life combined with the intake that you've had, so the stories you know, the stories you've chosen to enjoy and make important in your life and prioritize, and then how you express them in your own composite, in your own work that you create out of them. That's why Tolkien's work is genius. It isn't because he invented the idea of elves, even though that's all any fantasy has ever ripped off of. It's all Tolkien. It's the way he took all these ideas from like Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, this high level adventure romance. And I like that they're called romances here, because we wouldn't call that romance today. Like, romance is guy gets girl or girl gets werewolf, whatever. um, um, but a romance then was to live in a romantic period where you lived by your passions and you did that which was right, and you were passionate about righteousness and you won. And that's what a romance. I mean, Beowulf, which is very grim. That's grim dark. That's Nordic. Okay, that's, yeah, he's a hero, but he sucked too. And the way that he was able to take all of that and make the Lord of the Rings feel like a romance. And I think that's why such masculine content, swords and orcs and battles and cities and worlds and dragons and demons and wizards and all this stuff is so attractive to females. It has such a zealous feminine following. And it's because the story is a romance that tells of a bad time becoming a better time.
Yeah, I think that to speak on the opposite, as a manly man myself, clearly, doing the right thing when it's hard. We like, I think we like the idea of it. If they broke into the church, I would not deny Christ. And then
Right.
we see the temple destroyed by Titus, and we have the Donatus controversy, where we have to have our big first controversy of, do we let these people who denied Christ back into the church?
Mm-hmm.
And it happens twice. So we want to be bravado and nice, and fantasy or fiction in general gives us that opportunity to put ourselves in the most virtuous state, and
right. I mean,
and read characters that are like that.
Have you ever been sitting there in church as the pastor drones on about something in Colossians or the Republican Party or something like that, and you just been like, yeah, if somebody busted in with a gun right now, this is what I would do. Like, this is, like in the college I went to, I knew where to set the C4 to collapse the second level of the balcony and stuff.
This is very manly thing. I did not think about this kind of stuff.
So this is like manly fantasy. It's like to be the one when evil comes in, and it never does, and it's so disappointing. I wish evil would act like a man sometimes and stop this insidious crap. But apparently if you live in Minneapolis, that's like totally possible now. But like Tolkien's context, the way he drew from everything, from being in the World War to what he read, what he ingested, and what he prioritized and valued, was this expression, which again was originally made for his son. And I don't know, you study the way Tolkien put these things together. Like, he invented these languages and stuff that he wasn't doing anything with. So he invented a fictional narrative for his son. He was like, oh, I could plug these languages into it. That's totally accidental, right? Like, it's almost, but it's like he's not in control of that creative process. And I have found that the best creators throughout history have been the ones who didn't feel like they were in control. A lot of people will say, I don't know, this character just took over and just went with it, And I think that true natural creation works that way. When I'm a Christian author, so what I do is I allow divine guidance. I prefer divine generation. I don't even want to think of it as my story. But divine guidance to be like, okay, where should these characters go? Where's the best way for this to go? What is the best thing to happen here? As opposed to entirely artificial, controlled storytelling, which is where you get your agenda fiction, your really annoying things to watch. All the girl boss literature, which, I mean, I'm all about girl bosses. I'm a huge Sigourney Weaver fan from Aliens. Like, you do it right, no one even mentions it.
Right.
It never even shows up. But when it's forced, like Galadriel fighting a troll by herself, even though there's 30 archers behind her who can all like hit eyeballs from like a mile away. Yeah. Or swimming to Valinor. That was my favorite. That was no swimming back from Valinor. That's right. Swimming back from Valinor, because apparently it's just like a little canal. You know, Tolkien didn't really explain how big that was. So but when stuff is forced like that on characters who are awesome by themselves, that's when it becomes artificial and that becomes unenjoyable.
It hurts the reader too. I was reading the first book in the Macy Dobbs series, which I really, really enjoyed. But throughout the whole thing, I'm like, okay, when does the turn come? When does she female explain to the man that one of these days women will work in the factories and the men will be able to leave them alone, and they'll have to raise the children with 3 jobs. Well, it didn't come, but it was a feminine mystery detective that I thoroughly enjoyed. And I would have enjoyed it more if the past 10 years didn't happen.
Right. And that involves a lot of the way we consume things too. Like when people are coming to Tolkien now, well, they're coming from a decade or two of deconstruction. I mean, if you're into Star Wars, or you were, or you would be into Star Wars, then you dive into Tolkien too to see what's going on there. But all you got is Rings of Power. That's the latest, biggest budget stuff. So people's entry point matters into this too, and the context they're coming from to try to enjoy it. Which is why, again, I'm a huge proponent of you need to enjoy things in the context in which they were generated. You need to understand that context for your deeper enjoyment. I'm all about surface enjoyment. I'm an Expendables guy. I love watching Expendables, okay? And I know the context that was created in. It was to make money, okay?
Which is one of our best 80s movies was that.
Yeah, exactly. It was
the
every good
classic
80s movie put together.
Yeah.
And
well, that's kind of what he wraps up with. He's like, to appreciate Tolkien's achievement, one needs to better understand Tolkien's own roots and the roots of modern fantasy. Like, that's exactly what he's saying here.
Like, and you can enjoy Lord of the Rings from your own perspective, right? From your own context or whatever.
Most of us do, right?
Yeah.
Well, a lot of people don't, from the context they're coming from, and the context limits them. Now, their context, I think, is also highly artificial. It is an unnatural mindset that they live in, that they force through constant preaching. And this is a major problem I have with a lot of what's going on. And that's left and right. Okay. I'm not targeting anyone here.
The understanding from Christians about the early church and how quick we are with Twitter responses versus writing the books on against the heretics that goes out into the world for 4 months and then is read and then is copied by hand and then sent out and then replied to in a moderate fashion.
No,
and then comes
I'll think I'll have made it when somebody hand copies one of like Shades of Black. Okay. When somebody does a hand copy of that, okay, then I'll be like, okay, I made it. That's a good review.
just a one hand copy.
It also, this sort of discussion about what inspires somebody like Tolkien, it really makes you think about AI too, because a lot of the AI discussion has been like, well, if you put stuff in, then you can get stuff out. You couldn't do enough to put in enough stuff, right? Like,
well,
Tolkien's specific personhood, right? Like the things that interested him, that drove the story forward, like the
inspiration.
Languages, right? It's just,
it's such a divine process. It's neat to see things created by humans, because it's like the paintbrush matters. Like the individual paintbrush matters to the kind of art that's produced. And that's what humans are to expressing art, because each human matters, because they'll create art differently, right? If Michael Caine creates art, it's going to have something to do with cowboy hats for some reason. Yeah. If I create something, it's going to have something to do with Marines. Okay, I can't get away from them. The channel through which the art is expressed matters, which is why what AI produces is generated and not inspired, because there's no divine process that takes place. Now, I use AI, but that's more for problem solving than it is for coming up with things. I don't use it to write scenes. I don't use it to anything that involves my voice, me as the channel. But like, if I don't remember the firing sequence on a javelin, like, look, or even like, I have problems visualizing things that don't exist yet. So I'll be like, okay, describe for me a white city in the mountains with a river running through the valley under it. Okay, do it again. Okay, do it again. And I'll take the conglomerate of all that and be like, okay, now I can kind of see it. I can kind of see the way I want to go. But none of that is inspired. The composite itself is.
Yeah. That's Jonathan Carpenter's second book in the Tripod series, City of Golden Fire. So if you want it done by a human, that's the one.
I'll have to check that out, because I need resources, man. I've been reading 40K for 20 years. I can't. I have no fantasy. And I tried reading fantasy, and it hurts.
Well, and I know where you're coming from as the creator of the thing. I'm not a creator of much of anything, but it's almost, when I first heard about death of the author, I viewed it as a good thing. Like, I don't really care about. I mean, I like Tolkien as an anarchist because I'm an anarchist. I like people who are characters who are readers because I'm a reader. So, Macy Dobbs is going to be endeared to me because she's a smart cookie who sneaks into a library when she's not supposed to and reads. And that's how she develops her, her initial stick.
Sure.
So, but what the author believes or cares about, like, I don't really care as long as you're modeling the ultimate storyteller. And
absolutely,
the Greeks did it in two ways. We talk about changing definitions, but in drama and comedy, it just meant a bad ending and a good ending, and they kept having bad endings because they knew the scope of human history without a redeemer. It took them a while to get to the comedy portion, and that's where you get the fart jokes and good times there.
So, like, a great example of that would be the movie Starship Troopers, which the director intended to be a satire, and he did such a horrible job at that. It's a great movie.
I was just about to say something similar. It was like, I like the idea of death of the author because I think a lot of people unintentionally end up putting in messages that point towards God, right? Like, so.
But also, I think it depends on the author too. I don't think that's an absolute question. It's like, are dictators bad? Not always. I think overall humanity should probably limit the number of dictators that it has, just because of how many terrible ones we have. But a good dictator is a good thing. If George Lucas, right? I have almost zero respect for him. I think he made a good thing one time, and then everything after that has been kind of poisoned by him taking too much control to where it became unnatural. Like, I'm still anti-prequels. Like, the prequels didn't get better because the sequels came out. David
would argue with you.
But I can enjoy them. I can enjoy them separate from the intent of the author, because there's some accidental good storytelling in there where somebody who knew how to make movies made a movie. I'm so thankful that his original screenplay didn't get made.
Oh, the Star Wars comic books?
Whatever that was.
Just
I don't remember what it was called. It was Luke Starwalker?
Starkiller, yeah.
Yeah, Starkiller, yeah.
Yeah. It's Anakin Skykiller, and then Luke and Leia are twins, but they're like 10 years old.
yeah, the idea was terrible, and it was taken by people who knew how to tell stories and
The
turned into
restraint.
something better. Yes, there was
The
restraint.
Mhm.
And the prequels didn't have that, which is why they suffered so much. They were unnatural. The romance was entirely unhinged.
Mhm.
The politics was barely believable. So I'm perfectly happy to watch these divorced from the author, because the author honestly wasn't that good. On the other hand, with Tolkien, I see so much more depth and richness just in the words he chooses to say on the page
Oh, if you
because of where
ever,
he came from.
and I cannot for the life of me right now remember who pointed it out. He will use words twice in a paragraph or like in a couple of sentences. And usually that's like you're thinking of what to say and
Mhm.
the same word comes up again right in your mind. But he does it and he always changes the actual meaning of the word.
Mhm.
He uses it in a different context. And he does it more than once, right? Like it's not like an accident that he
Yeah, the
does this.
parallelism. Yeah.
As
Yeah.
a creator, the amount of work it would take to do that is insane. And this man has poetry
Oh yeah.
and songs, and he's pulling that crap.
Yeah.
And
Well, I hate to get more political in homeschooling, but this is the idea of classical education. It's reading the good things of the past because they were thought of as good, and pulling from them. He's tinkering with language. He's reading the old stuff. He's reading the things that were good at the time, and now, I mean, I was thinking, well, other than Dune 1 and 2, my kids don't have to see a movie for the past like 15 years. So we have from City Lights and the silent era movies to Jurassic Park, and then you can pace yourself out from there. But he enveloped himself in the language of language, and he became a master of language. And I'm using the same word 3 times, but they all mean the same thing there.
Mhm. Well, I mean, like, I'm a fighter, right? And when when you get to a certain level, you specialize. If you're going up against a guy who specializes in head kicks, dear Lord, like, and he blitzes them too. They just come from anywhere, they come from any angle, and you're learning while you're trying not to die. The and that's where it becomes art. Like, that's where the beauty comes from. Where you're just like, how are you even doing this? You've spent so much time doing this.
Yeah, the martial arts, the liberal arts, they're tools, they're skills for a reason, because they were there because that is the created order of us, and we're mimicking the proper way. I always talk about like railroad tracks. When you're following the rules of life, you're on the railroad track. It feels boring. It's safe, but it was designed that way.
Yeah.
But the arts tell us within the scope of these new things that we encounter, the rockets, or I'm reading Napoleon biography right now. The utilization of old technology, or old ideas that then translate to new advances in technology and new ways to do war, because you're using those new ones. But why does everyone read The Art of War by Sun Tzu and apply it to them?
Because of
tap into the
LinkedIn.
vein of this subconscious idea, and where the East talks about this type of Gaia type thing. Us in the West are going to say we're made in the image of God, and we're reflecting that back to the Creator, and we can do terrible things with it to show, and terrible things can be good too, because it shows that dichotomy of, well, this is what the Bible is in genre, but then here's Silo, or pluribus, right? So it's good, but on accident.
Mm-hmm. And that's one thing, like when I'm writing for Marines, I'm not trying to preach at them, right? That's what church is for. Okay. They go to church, they get preached at, cool. Okay. I want them to have their defenses down when they're reading the book. But truth is universal. I mean, if we take as a given that God created the universe and God is truth, then truth will be in the universe. Therefore, when you speak truth, you are building a road back to him. Because you will raise questions which can only be answered in a certain way. And I did this to my drill instructor at boot camp. We were on the Crucible, and they had these little discussion things they would do. And man, it was the lowest possible ability of philosophical discussion. It was just 18-year-olds who'd had their lives drained out of them for 13 weeks, now sitting there, and their drill instructor asked them, okay, what is honor? You know, and like these kids would be like, honor is doing the right thing at all times. Even it's straight out of the book.
Yep.
You know, and I kind of shook my head a little bit because it hurt so bad. Like I was like, it'd been 2 days. I was barely slept. I was starving. Like, and I have to listen to this now. That was the worst part. And he got the look on my face. And he was like, "Scribe, what, big brain?" Because by this point they had figured out I was smart. And
well, I mean, you did go to the Marines, so
honor. No, that was the smartest decision I made. Let me tell you about the other branches real quick. He was like, what do you think honor is? I was like, honor does not go far enough, because the terrorist is honored by his people, and the murderer is honored by those who love him. So honor isn't far enough. We need righteousness. We need holiness, which is adhering to a higher standard. He's like, whoa, scribe, we can't talk about God. I was like, I didn't say God. You did, because it made sense.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm trying to do through my fiction, is when you raise the questions, it leads only to one place. It's only one place truth can come from. And if you follow the truth, you're going to get to where you need to be.
Yeah. I was, I'll name drop for those who care about the name, but I was talking to Martin Cothran on Cave of the Cross, and he said that I forget who it was that had the quote of Christianity was the answer to the question the Greeks were asking. So, you know, they were struggling. Why did the Iliad? Why did the Odyssey? Why are those, other than scripture, which is copied by hand, way more parchment, backs of napkins, animal hides, whatever have you. And then the next one is the Odyssey, because those spoke to a nation in change, that were grasping, that were able to not be war torn, but then able to grasp with things like honor and commitment, and those things that had wrong answers, or leaned too heavily on the type of people the Greeks were at the time. But
right,
reading the Greek pantheon of literature, you see them change from a blood avenger to let's have a trial. Guys want to limit violence? Let's limit violence, which for the Greek during Homer's time was unheard of. We that's not what we do. So that's
you also have to consider that when the Greeks would never accept Judaism, right? Because the Greeks thought religion was retarded. Look at their religion. The stories involved in their religion caused them to lose respect for the concept of gods. And so that's not what the story of Jesus was to them. The story of Jesus was that of a philosopher, revolutionary, who stood against the Roman Empire and who inspired his followers through his radical teachings. And that is something that grabs the Greeks.
Yeah, John 1 is a punch in the mouth to both Jew and Greek.
Yeah,
and it's a punch in the mouth to the Jew because God is made man, but then the logos for the Greek becomes God and man at the same time. But it was chosen for a reason. And again, let me draw back to what this book is doing. Is you don't need to read any of these stories to like Tolkien or to fully grasp them or what have you. But there are the echoes that may give you greater insight. And why are we talking about logos in John 1? There was a specific purpose. There was a specific audience being spoken to. Well, here is a collection of books that have a specific audience at the time that spoke to a particular group of people. But then there was this boy, there was this man, there was this veteran from World War I, not World War II, which would have changed the story, I think, drastically. That you know, I'm not trying to do the meme, but Lewis and Tolkien are of the same coin, but for different paths, avenues. But those stories gripped hold of people who then said, when you're older and ready for the fairy tales, they'll be here for you.
And I mean, you can see that revival when Jackson did his films. Like, I didn't read the books until I saw the movie, Fellowship of the Ring. And I was like, that was awesome. Like, what? Is there more? Like, I'm going to go read ahead. And, like, the fact that they could take hold of people again, and like this is something that I've really been delving into a lot lately, is cultural impact and when certain stories strike the most people. Like, what is causing them to react to it? What is the starvation? Like, what are we missing? Do we need a strong king or government or whatever to save us? Do we need to overthrow the strong king or the strong government or whatever to save us? Do we need to think about good times? Do we want to go and tourist in the bad times because we live in good times? You know, like what is the hunger for the reader, which does vary across different cultures. I mean, different cultures are in different places.
Yeah, or the audience, right? So why did Harry Potter become this cultural phenomenon? There's been books about magic in schools. You know, why at this point in time did it grip a bunch of malcontent teenagers that saw themselves as outsiders in the 90s, but in the era of we're starting to become nihilistic and there's no matter. Well, here's a story where matter is seeped in, and you know,
transcendent.
It's the Norm Macdonald joke of I don't know why you're laughing. You know, she wrote in a way that gave acknowledgement to scripture in the way that the story was told. And with Jackson, I think that was probably the right time to do it. We may have gotten a Dune 1, Dune 2, but that's a Islamic savior. We needed the Christian savior to prep us for these times. And now with Fathom Events releasing the trilogy again, it'll be interesting to see what this current generation takes them. My idea is it's probably going to be, you know, colonialist and too many white people and et cetera, all the normal things. But at the same time, there are the children that Catherine and I have that will see it, and they're unguarded from those messages, and they'll go, cool sword, wizard goes bang, and then they'll pick it up again in another 10 years when they go, my dad read this story to me and we finished it on Christmas Eve. Like, hopefully that's a core memory. It's a core memory for me. So I'm going to continue to lecture them about reading good books. It's why you fill up your downstairs with a library and then you tell them, like, these are books that I haven't read, because what's the point of owning books that I've read all of them? Like,
true.
So, yeah.
I mean, that sounds like you're gaslighting yourself, but
Listen, I'm married. I've got kids. I don't need to impress anybody anymore. I have to. I'm taking the David Room approach. I have to make just enough money for my wife not to leave me.
There you go. Yeah, that's my
She's a
parenting
Christian,
style.
so
It's
she's
like,
stuck
I need
anyway.
to be on this side of lawful negligence. Like, I just need to make a solid case, okay?
As long as they can read and they're in books, is it really negligence?
Well, I mean, that's my kids now. Like, my oldest had some issues learning to read, and
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know you had kids, so I'm sorry. I forgot about that. I would have included you in the camaraderie.
Oh
So
no, that's fine. That's fine.
I apologize.
I never feel included. It's okay. No one wants to. It's
Well, I
so
do.
nice. Katie keeps having me back.
God, where are you?
Yeah. He's
Sorry.
gonna say something to demonetize me.
True.
My oldest had some learning issues to getting to read, so she didn't like reading at first.
Mm.
And so we actually started her with audio and got her to love stories that she didn't have to work so hard to enjoy. And now she's awake till 2:30 in the morning reading by her light, in her bed. And I don't want to hammer her for it unless she has like a presentation in the morning or something.
Right.
But it's like,
How do you punish that?
I remember this,
Yeah.
and this was a good part of life. It was a good time of life where I could enjoy stories and love them without any of the crap that comes tagged onto them anymore.
Mhm.
She's just reading stories about little dragon princesses right now. And, I had to check them first to make sure that
Sure.
no one's slipping anything in. But she's just loving. She'll tell me about them in the morning. This happened here, and then they found this magic rock, and it made everyone friendly. And I'm like, oh, good. That sounds great.
That sounds realistic.
Yeah.
So mind control. Cool.
Yeah, whatever. I guess that's ethical.
My oldest is listening at night to the Anne of Green Gables series, and now we're watching the A&E version that I remember waking up slightly a little bit too early to capture and watch before school, and I always like those. So I'm waiting for like that memory of the one episode that I kind of remember, but I have no clue where it's at. But she's telling me like, oh, that's not how he died. He died when his money got taken, and I'm like, kid, you are definitely in my DNA strand. Like, this is the first 5 minutes of Spear by Michael Crichton going, the first 5 minutes were word for word exactly what I listened to pretty much every time that I mowed the lawn, and then it diverged. And this is garbage.
So seeing how Tolkien stories are going to impact a new audience, because there's always a new audience, right? And it's either they're rebelling against their ancestors or they're valuing what their ancestors had. And I was fortunate because in the Marine Corps, we're all about valuing our ancestors. I watch all of the Fat Electrician's videos on Marine Corps heroes. Okay, they're so good. And so man, when he did John Bassalone, he was basically in tears at the end of it. I come from this culture of valuing and honoring what came on before you because they were incredible. They're like, and they were not special people. It wasn't like they were the seventh son of a seventh son of a king of a whatever. They weren't foretold to come. They were alcoholics given guns and bayonets and said, hey, hold Midway. By the way, your entire line of reinforcement was just cut. And your officer's a doofenshmirtz.
So no, it's fair. Yes.
That legacy is aspirable. And the nice thing about the Lord of the Rings is you can do it. You can do it. If Pippin made it all the way to the last page of the book, you can too.
Minas Tirith and storming the beaches of Normandy. One you have to watch through Private Ryan, but those people did it, and they did it maybe without ever reading Tolkien. But this is the parallel that it's okay to make, at least in my philosophy. I don't know about your guys', but the ringing of history that rhymes in fiction is nice to see. Not one-to-one. These are fake people. These are real people. These are actors portraying real people. These are actors able to put their kids into a fun fight scene. But I can see Minas Tirith, I can see Normandy, and then I can see me with Bully, or me with family, or me having a bad day at work, right? So that's what fiction allows me to do. I think Katie has a number of episodes on the difference between escapism and then the other one. That's the bad one. Like it's the you're not getting lost for the sake of like never ending story, labyrinth type deal of like the world doesn't exist, only I exist in this. It's I'm able to escape the bullies outside, but now I'm going to ride Falcor into the city.
I forget who I was talking to. I think it was Thomas. But the Ride of the Rohirrim is the Charge of the Hussars. It was like directly designed to mirror that. And then the Coming of the Dead is thought to be the Americans coming into World War I. Like we have to go and negotiate for them to act. We have to call on their oaths to get them to actually come and do things. And they only took the docks and the beaches and the boats and stuff. We actually did all the real work. And I'm like, where's Bella Woods, son?
Follow the yellow brick road. Get back on the gold standard.
It's fun to see. And it's fun to see new generations try to interpret it for themselves. And the problem is the new generations are being taught actively that your perspective is the most important, and it's not, because it's actually the least experienced. It's the least contextualized. It's solely how do you call this? It's first person POV, which is probably why it's so prevalent in the slop that's out there anymore. Because you only see what you see and what you know and what you do, and you don't contextualize in anything else, or you think you do, but you're contextualizing to made up echoes like colonialism or ideas that have been put on you about what the world is. And so your context that you're trying to build around you has actually been designed for you, like the Matrix, and so you can't actually form a coherent thought absent of that kind of echo chamber kind of thing. So I worry that the good things that have been made can't be appreciated anymore. And so I think that's why seeing where Tolkien came from, to get outside of my perspective, my generation, and my context, to be able to see what were the ingredients he used, like what put him together, like what times of, what movies did he cry in, like, like for me, 13th Warrior, love that movie. It is not a magnificent movie, okay. But it is a great one. Actually, the book, I'm not into that at all. I tried it. No, I didn't get into this. 13th Warrior is actually better.
Such a better title, though.
Yeah. Yes. But I can still relate to it, though, generations later. When I was 12, they were awesome Vikings who were killing bare-headed monsters. Okay, that was cool. Now I'm 40. And there is a 40-year-old warrior who just wants to live his life in a way that he'll be remembered as a good person. And even though he just achieved what everyone else would have said is the pinnacle of what he can get, he just became king of his tribe, he left power immediately to go and fight the monsters. That still strikes me. That to me is what a great story is that I can still pull value and still be inspired by it so much later in the context that I'm in now. And to me, that's what defines a great story. It's not one designed to hit you in a narrow angle of life. It's one that can always get you. Like my 3-year-old is on a wild robot kick, and we have watched that movie 45 times in the past month. I think that's a great movie because it's about moms. And every mom I've seen who's watched it has just been like, this is awesome. Like, this is kind of good. So I think stories like that have a universal appeal to something humans always need Like, you're always going to be hungry. You're always going to want to need to get the girl. You know, you're always going to want to try to do the right thing, to be a good man, to find courage against something. Those are the elements that make great stories. And to see the elements that Tolkien drew from to create something which is genius, you know, honestly. And Lord of the Rings isn't even my favorite. I like the Silmarillion way more.
I'm a Hobbit girl.
You would be. But man, the rage of Feanor that passed on to his sons and doomed the world for so long. The elves and humans that, through their own vices, their own spiritual weaknesses, caused the fall of the great nations. Just, it's so good. It's I would say it's healing to me to read it, to see the things that I'm seeing in the world shown also in fiction. It lets me contextualize what I'm seeing in the world, because again, there are no new stories, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm not going all Candace Owens on it, but like, you know, I can see what happened here from a World War I context, and then overlay it onto what's happening now, because men in power have the same desires, and it hasn't changed at all ever. And it helps me understand it, and then the fear, if it's not gone, is greatly diminished, because that story also had the solution.
Mm-hmm. Looking forward to this very much. I'm glad that you guys are going to do it with me.
Yep.
Should be
I'm going to
fun.
keep playing A Shadow of Mordor to keep preparing for these.
I'm going to watch more K-pop Demon Hunter and understand that you have to have the demons.
Tolkien definitely have been into K-pop Demon Hunter.
Kill demons. That's what
I've
we
been
do with demons.
rewatching
What are they
Delicious
there
in
for? For
Dungeons,
us to kill.
so
Actually, I've been on a rewatch of Supernatural.
ooh.
Big Supernatural
Yes, me
fan.
too.
And
Me too.
I hate most of their lore. I hate how they treat angels. I don't understand the power scaling of demons. How it's like up here, and then it's like way down here for a while, then back up here. But the characters themselves, the two brothers, perfection.
Yeah.
They do a great job.
Get the cryptid right.
Yeah.
The
like,
Wendigoon is not a man. Sorry.
Come on.
All right. I'm gonna call it. I think I heard somebody a small person.
A child just walked past the door with a stepladder. I need to go now.
I thought that our discussions of the introductions were getting kind of longer. So I feel justified in only scheduling the introduction for tonight.
Good call, Katie.
21
You
pages
guys
to
are
the next
interested
story.
in joining us. Right. If you're interested in joining us, you can pick it up. We'll be reading it for a while. And let us know in the comments, was Tolkien where fantasy started for you? Or have you read any of the many authors that came before him that we will be getting to read in this book? Thank you guys so much for watching. Like, subscribe, comment. Have a good night.